Good evening and welcome to our daily devotional reading. A special welcome to the members of our make-believe monastery. I hope you had a good day. Let's just take a few breaths and then we'll jump right into it. Let the worries of the day just go. Just slide off your back. There is no greater pursuit than the pursuit of truth. So let's not prioritize other things about that. Socrates. The knowledge does not consist in impressions of sense, but in reasoning about them, and that only, and not in the mere impressions, truth and being can be attained. Clearly. And would you call two processes by the same name, when there is so great a difference between them? That would certainly not be right. And what name would you give to seeing, hearing, smelling, being cold, being hot? I would call all of them perceiving. What other name could be given to them? Perception would be the collective name of them? Certainly. Which, as we say, has no part in the attainment of truth, any more than of being. Certainly not, and therefore not in science or knowledge. No, then perception, Theaetetus, can never be the same as knowledge or science. Clearly not, Socrates, and knowledge has now been most distinctly proved to be different from perception. But the original aim of our discussion was to find out rather what knowledge is than what it is not. At the same time, we have made some progress, for we no longer seek for knowledge in perception at all, but in that other process, however called, in which the mind is alone and engaged with being. You mean, Socrates, if I am not mistaken, what is called thinking or opining. The Greek is doxazo, to think, imagine, suppose, fancy, conjecture. The other translation has it as judgment. Opining, although it's a strange word to my mouth, feels like the best translation. It's not quite thinking, it's more being of the opinion. Fancying, supposing. Socrates, you conceive truly, and now, my friend, please to begin again at this point, and having wiped out of your memory all that has preceded, see if you have arrived at any clearer view, and once more say what is knowledge. Theaetetus, I cannot say, Socrates, that all opinion is knowledge, because there may be a false opinion. But I will venture to assert that knowledge is true opinion. Let this then be my reply. And if this is hereafter disproved, I must try to find another. Socrates, that is the way in which you ought to answer, Theaetetus, and not in your former hesitating strain. For if we are bold, we shall gain one of two advantages. Either we shall find what we seek, or we shall be less likely to think that we know what we do not know. In either case, we shall be richly rewarded. And now, what are you saying? Are these two sorts of opinion, one true and the other false? And do they define knowledge to be the true? Theaetetus, yes, according to my present view. Like that. Socrates, is it still worth our while to resume the discussion touching opinion? Theaetetus, to what are you alluding? Socrates, there is a point which often troubles me, and is a great perplexity to me, both in regard to myself and others. I cannot make out the nature or origin of the mental experience to which I refer. Pray, what is it? How there can be false opinion? That difficulty still troubles the eye of my mind, and I am uncertain whether I shall leave the question or begin over again in a new way. Begin again, Socrates, at least if you think that there is the slightest necessity for doing so. Were not you and Theodorus just now remarking very truly that in discussions of this kind we may take our own time? Socrates, you are quite right, and perhaps there will be no harm in retracing our steps and beginning again. Better a little which is well done than a great deal imperfectly. Certainly. Socrates. Well, and what is the difficulty? Do we not speak of false opinion and say that one man holds a false and another a true opinion, as though there were some natural distinction between them? Theaetetus, we certainly say so. Socrates, all things and everything are either known or not known. I leave out of view the intermediate conceptions of learning and forgetting, because they have nothing to do with our present question. Theaetetus, there can be no doubt, Socrates, if you exclude these, that there is no other alternative but knowing and not knowing a thing. Socrates, that point being now determined, must we not say that he who has an opinion must have an opinion about something which he knows or does not know? He must. He who knows cannot but know, and he who does not know cannot know. Of course. Socrates, what shall we say then when a man has a false opinion? Does he think that which he knows to be some other thing which he knows? And knowing both, is he at the same time ignorant of both? Theaetetus. That, Socrates, is impossible. Socrates. But perhaps he thinks of something which he does not know as some other thing which he does not know. For example, he knows neither Theaetetus nor Socrates, and yet he fancies that Theaetetus is Socrates, or Socrates Theaetetus. How can he? But surely he cannot suppose that he knows to be what he does not know, or what he does not know to be what he knows. That would be monstrous. Where then is false opinion? For if all things are either known or unknown, there can be no opinion which is not comprehended under this alternative, and so false opinion is excluded. I'm not following. Most true. Suppose that we remove the question out of the sphere of knowing or not knowing, into that of being and not being. Two things. I'll just say one thing. And leave the rest for just to translate the Greek. Eidenai is the knowing which is used here. So it's different from the doxui, the one that sounds like doxa. And einai is the being, so two infinitives, which sounds so close. Eidenai and einai. It's pretty good, nice Greek. Theaetetus, good Greek. Beautiful Greek, yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. Theaetetus, what do you mean? Socrates. May we not suspect the simple truth to be that he who thinks about anything, that which is, will necessarily think what is false, whatever in other respects may be the state of his mind. May we not suspect the simple truth to be that he who thinks about anything, that which is not, will necessarily think what is false, whatever in other respects may be the state of his mind. Theaetetus. That again is not unlikely, Socrates. Then suppose someone to say to us, Theaetetus, is it possible for any man to think that which is not, either as a self-existent substance or as a predicate of something else? And suppose that we answer, yes, he can, when he thinks what is not true. What will be our answer? That would be our answer? Yes. But is there any parallel to this? What do you mean? Can a man see something and yet see nothing? Impossible. But if he sees any one thing, he sees something that exists. Do you suppose that what is one is ever to be found among non-existing things? I do not. He then who sees some one thing sees something which is, clearly. And he who hears anything hears some one thing, and hears that which is. Yes, and he who touches anything touches something which is, and which is one, and therefore is. That again is true. And does not he who thinks think some one thing? And here we have back the doxatsua type of thinking, so opining, having an opinion, supposing. Theaetetus, certainly. Socrates. And does not he who thinks some one thing think something which is? I agree. Then he who thinks of that which is not thinks of nothing. Clearly. And he who thinks of nothing does not think at all. Obviously. Then no one can think that which is not, either as a self-existent substance or as a predicate of something else. Clearly not. Then to think falsely is different from thinking that which is not. It would seem so. Then false opinion has no existence in us, either in the sphere of being or of knowledge. Certainly not. But may not the following be the description of what we express by this name? What? May we not suppose that false opinion or thought is a sort of heterodoxy? A person may have an exchange in his mind and say that one real object is another real object, for thus he always thinks that which is, but he puts one thing in place of another, and missing the aim of his thoughts, he may be truly said to have false opinion. Now you appear to me to have spoken the exact truth. When a man puts the base in the place of the noble, or the noble in the place of the base, then he has truly false opinion. Socrates, I see, Theaetetus, that your fear has disappeared, and that you are beginning to despise me. Despise here and like take me for granted, not you. Theaetetus, what makes you say so? And that thus far is our scripture of the evening, which means we will have to wait until tomorrow to hear Socrates' response. So this is basically, if I understand Parmenides correctly, this is basically Parmenides. That's what I wanted to say when we were talking about the knowing and being. But first, so that I can close this, great quote for Instagram or any type of superficial inspiration. And then you can even say it comes from Socrates, so then it sounds deep. Better a little which is well done than a great deal imperfectly. I'm going to try to use that at work. I don't think they'll fall for it. But hey, it's worth a shot. Better a little that is well done than a great deal imperfectly. But best of all is a great deal done well. That's what the response that my boss will give. I'm 100% sure of that. But the actual quote that I wanted to come back to. If we are bold, we shall gain one of two advantages. Either we shall find what we seek, or we shall be less likely to think that we know what we do not know. In either case, we shall be richly rewarded. It feels like that should be the quote of any search for truth. If we are bold, we shall gain one of two advantages. Either we shall find what we seek, or we shall be less likely to think that we know what we do not know. In either case, we shall be richly rewarded. And until we find, I think this might be a very good, what do you call it? I'm sorry, my words. A good case for agnosticism. So the last couple of exchanges between Socrates and Theaetetus, it feels very much like he is actually bringing Parmenides into play. If I remember, I might just say this. If I remember the poem correctly, I haven't read it for years. He believes that it is possible to know non-being. I tend to believe in the nothing, the no thing. So I'm not sure how I feel about that. But one could also make a case for the one that is all, then all is. Panta estin. And then there is no such thing as non-being. And I can also see that. But maybe we should save that for the... Oh, when I say the 2 year, I mean the year of 2 pages. So year 3, the 3rd year, but the year of 2 pages will be the year devoted to the good. And maybe I should save going deeper into this for that year. So what I did also have a bit of non-agreement with is perceptions. I have no part in the attainment of truth and being, and I think that is not true at all. Oh, every time I say something, I'm questioning myself now. Because I'm taking on Parmenides' view as far as I think is possible, or more possible than I have control over. Let's put it like that. So I'm keeping questioning myself when I say anything tonight. But perception, I want to believe that perception does have a part in both the attainment of truth and of being. But then I think of Donald Hoffman, and others that claim that our perceptions are really purely evolutionary adaptations. But hey, we've made a lot. We've made a lot with our empirical knowledge. There must be some truth in it. And I know John is very much against such views, that our perceptions deceive us completely. And I know Jordan also, I really miss Jordan today. I know that he also prescribes at least a number of books on perception and how that plays out in who we are even. And who we are influence how we perceive. But there still is something out there. Maybe. I'm also inclined to, I can't pronounce it. I should just type it in and see how it's spelled, and maybe I will be able to pronounce it. But I only know the word through Alex O'Connor. Mereological nihilism. So that is something I think describes what I say, that I believe in the nothing. I think that's what the scientific, or the word that smart people came up with to describe this thing that I kind of think I believe. But I don't know exactly what it means. But so What was I saying? I don't know. That's what it comes down to. I don't know. But it's a fun game trying to find. And I'm 100% cool with the idea that maybe the only thing I find is that at the end of the search, I still do not know. I like the frequent reference to begin again, and the fact and the reference back to the fact that we do have time, or we should make time for asking these questions and beginning again over and over to try to find the answers. I do think there's a little anecdote in my mind now of when I was in kindergarten. I don't know how old I was. I was probably 3 years old, because I became terribly shy when I became self-conscious, and it was still in the town that I was born, I think. Or was it in Middleburg? I'm not sure, but I was a little girl. And well, I've never told it in English, so I don't know if it will be funny in English. Probably not. It's probably just because it's personal that I think it's funny. I went to my mom one day after school and asked her, or in the morning, in the morning we were all getting ready. And the previous day, probably I heard a conversation that I wanted to make sense of. So I went to my mom and said, "Mom, what is sex?" And she thought it was hilarious that I asked. And she wanted to play a practical joke on my dad. So she said, "Go ask your dad. He will be able to tell you." So I did. I went to my dad and said, "Daddy, what is sex?" And he fumbled, and he was not ready to hear that word from his little girl's mouth. So he said, it's something between a man and a woman. And his exact words were something like, "I don't really understand it either." So, and then my mom, I turned around, and my mom obviously followed me to see how this is going to play out. And I turned to my mom and stood there I was very cheeky. I still am, apparently. I've been told that I'm cheeky. Stood there with my hands, and I looked at it and I still don't know what sex is. So every time I read one of these poetic dialogues, I feel like doing that. I still don't know what knowledge is. And I probably will. And now you will know the backstory about why I do that. On that note, I hope you have a good night's rest. And please don't ask me to explain what that thing between a man and a woman is. My parents never told me. No, they did. Don't worry about it. I was informed when the time came. May the spirit of Sophia be with you.